Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some more Fiendsmith Mitsurugi, because I cannot stop playing this deck. Or I couldn't, at least during the Duelist Cup, which is still going on at the time I'm recording this, but probably a little under a week ago at the time this is going out. Anyway, we're going to start with the going second game here that ended up being pretty back and forth against Banished Psychics. They're going to lead by using their Prototype Psychic Blaster, which they can discard to summon a level 4 lower psychic monster from hand or banishment, going for Mind Procedure to attempt to go for Emergency Teleport or some amount of plays. So I decided I had Fulos and Imperm in hand. I thought about saving the Fua, right, for the actual Emergency Teleport, but then I thought, okay, I can Imperm the Mind Procedure here, and then if they don't have plays, great, I have Mitsurugi Prayers. So, and if they still have, or rather, sorry, if they don't have plays, I do. Yeah, I have Mitsurugi Prayers. If they do have plays, I can still Fulos them. So Imperm's going to resolve against the Mind Procedure here. And I think they're just going to set one and pass. Yep. So we get to go into our turn. Looking pretty good. Definitely going to want to draw phase Prayers here. You always want to fire off Prayers during the draw phase because it plays around Draw and Lockbird. But especially if you have like a ritual monster that's not Habakiri, because then you contribute this and then you'll get Habakiri plus the ritual for a better double search. Now here they're going to actually end up throwing out a Maxi. And so I had a choice to make at this point. Do I want to play into Maxi or not? I decided not to. Here's how I'm going to avoid it. I'm going to use the Prayers to actually add Aramasa, not Habakiri, and then Murakumo's going to add another Prayers. That way I can go normal Aramasa, add the Habakiri off that. They're going to droll after that, totally fine with me, because I wasn't going to make plays anyway. I was just going to battle over the Mind Procedure and then set Prayers past to them. This does a few things, right? It forces them to have a good top deck, because now they literally only have their one face down card. Although I will quickly learn about the graveyard effect of this guy here in a second. But we also have the Prayers face down. So if I wanted to, I could use Prayers, Tribute Aramasa, and we could still activate our Fulos here, by the way. So yeah, sure enough, should have just read. If I'd read the graveyard effect, that might have actually changed how I made my plays, but either way, we're just going to fire off the Prayers here, attributing Aramasa. They're going to use Ash Blossom on the Prayers, totally fine, as I want to use Fulos here anyway. They're going to summon the Mind Procedure. I get to activate Aramasa, and then I'm going to chain Fulos here. So they can go into either a Link 2 or a level 9 Psychic, and I wasn't really familiar with the deck, you know, like what all the extra deck options were, so I wasn't sure if the level 9 would be something that could extend their plays, but it's not. It's going to be the Psychic Blaster Mark II, which is more of an end board piece. It can banish one of my monsters, but that's about it. Oh, and it can summon banished monsters as well. But they still don't really have close to lethal. We drew an Engraver off that Fua, by the way. Excellent top deck, because it means I can bait out their plays without having to actually commit to my Mitsurugi engine. So we're going to lead with Engraver here, Engraver F, in order to add Tract. We're going to activate Tract, again, just hoping to bait out their plays. The only disruptions they really have are the Banish off Mark II, and then whatever this face down card is, right? But they haven't used the face down card yet. They didn't at all during my turn. They could have used it if it was Imperm, if it was Call By. Cross Out, I imagine they're playing Fulos, so it's probably not any of those. But I wanted to show a really good example of a grind game that doesn't necessarily come down to even really playing a control aspect, just trying to play smart through hand traps, right? I think a lot of people, when they have the opportunity to battle and their opponent uses Max C, will immediately just go like, all right, we have to go all in and end the game this turn before they draw Nib. But at the same time, I think it's important to consider each individual situation. And in this situation, I was pretty confident I could give them no draws off Maxi and still just win anyway. So there we go. There's our first duel. Let's take a look at the next one here. All right, so we're going to go into a going first game here. I do have one more going second duel, but I'm going to save it for the end because it's really cool. You're going to see. All right, so this going first game, let's see what our hand looks like. Okay, we have Prayers plus a Ritual Monster, so yep, Draw Phase Prayers is always correct here. Again, I think Draw Phase Prayers is pretty much always correct anyway, but here we get to not only add Habakiri, but the Ritual. So now, let's say, because I'm going to go to use Habakiri, right? But let's say they use the Droll Knockbird after my Saji search. I still have the Ritual, plus I'll have more options with the Saji adding either another copy of Prayers or Great Purification, probably just... Or no, it would be Mirror in this situation. Yeah, we want to add Mirror here. Yep, there it is. So if our opponent had used the Droll Lockbird there, then I would still have Habakiri, Ritual, and Mirror. I could still use the Ritual to summon a Murakumo from deck, and then I could even use it again in order, or sorry, summon the Habakiri from hand, use it again to summon from deck, and I could still use Mirror to summon the Habakiri back from the graveyard. That's why I added what I did there, and that's why, again, playing around Droll Lockbird is so important with this deck. Also why I didn't lead with Engraver, because Engraver goes for Tract, and Tract adds Lurry. If I had led Discard Engraver, add Tract, and they'd use Droll, then I would have been totally SOL, because I wouldn't have been able to even use the Saji search. And again, this is something I've mentioned before a lot, but it's also a misplay I've continued to see. Not that I'm expecting every single one of my opponents to have watched every one of my videos or anything, but you know, it's a misplay that I see a lot on ranked ladder, even in like master rank, even in like upper, you know, diamond, even in like Duelist Cup, late stage or whatever. You know, I continue to see people making these misplays where they're not playing into Droll Lockbird correctly with their Mitsurugi, you know, / Fiendsmith stuff, whatever. So it's a point that I feel the need to repeat just to make sure that we're spreading that knowledge and making sure we can avoid those misplays if possible. I mean, we're all human, we're all gonna misplay, but of course the goal is to minimize that. Alright, so now that we have the Caesar online, I feel a lot more comfortable going into into Mitsurugi stuff, rather. I mean, granted, Mitsurugi already plays really well into Nibiru, but here's the thing, right? If your opponent knows how to play against Mitsurugi, they will know to wait until you've used all of the second effects of the ritual monsters, right? Because the idea is that if they Nibiru when they haven't used those effects yet, they can still summon back, get the search, and you're fine. But a smart opponent will wait until all of those effects have been used, then they tribute your board, and then you're really screwed. Alright, so we have the Murakumo here. Here's the Great Purification. Habakiri summoned back to the board. I can use the Mirror now to summon that initial Futsu no Mitama from my graveyard. Which, of course, the Murakumo will still get to revive off its effect as well. Also, I haven't even normal summoned yet, by the way, so adding this Aramasa isn't even just for follow-up plays. I'm going to link the Night Sword Serpent plus Habakiri into IP. Then we can normal summon Aramasa, add a follow-up Murakumo, then I can link Fiendsmith Sequence Murakumo plus Aramasa into the Abaoaku, the Lightless Shadow. Set prayers and then pass, or not prayers, purification rather. So I still have multiple ways to summon back this Murakumo. It could either be off the Futsu no Mitama, or it could be off the Abaoaku's second effect here. Or, second effect, yep. Then I'd be able to summon it back and still get the board wipe. Even though I don't have access to prayers right now, that's why I valued Great Purification more highly than prayers in this scenario, because I knew I'd have multiple ways to revive anyway. Actually, I have 3, technically, because I could still go into IP into Dynamundo, right? And then Dynamundo, because it'd be my opponent's turn, could then summon a ritual monster from my graveyard. So, without prayers, I still, again, have 3 ways to go into the Murakumo in my graveyard here. I'm actually going to end up using my Abaoaku on this Nightmare Throne, just because this is really good value for the Destroy a Card effect. They're going to then throw out a Habakiri, which I'm going to use my Caesar on, because it'll negate and destroy, meaning even if they have a ritual in hand, they now cannot summon the Habakiri from hand. Put that back in burn. They're going to normal summon Saji. I'm going to use Ash Blossom on that. Saji tends to be the best Ash Blossom target. They're going to use the Crossout Designator. I'm not going to use Great Purification here. That's fine. I'll just use it on whatever they search. Well, not even that. I can use Caesar on whatever they search, whether it's prayers or the ritual spell. It doesn't matter, because they all have effects that summon. So they're going to tribute a Kusanagi from hand. I'm going to use Caesar to negate. Now they can use Kusanagi to add back, but they don't have the ritual in the graveyard. So, like, what are they going to add back? Habakiri or prayers? Neither of that does anything. So they have one kind of live card left in hand. It ends up being triple tack. And I've saved my Great Purification for last. Actually, not even that for last. I still have the IP Masquerena in play. So if they go Battle Phase here, I can go IP into either SP or Dynamundo. using her plus the Caesar. And yeah, there we go. Pretty clean path to victory there after setting up that turn 1 board. Let's go ahead and show off our next going first game and also establishing a board. Yeah, so like I mentioned, this is going to be another going first game. And I actually don't remember if we do the same board here. Because I actually had quite a few games where I ended on that board of like a Bawaku plus Futsu no Mitama plus IP plus Caesar. Okay, here we've got Engraver plus Habakiri. I'm going to lead with Habakiri, again, always thinking about Joel and Lockbird. Our opponent's going to Fuelos here, which means they get a draw off this Saji summon. But that's fine. That's not a huge deal. We can Saji for Prayers here. I'm going to activate Prayers, do both effects, tributing Habakiri from hand, adding Murakumo, summoning back Saji. Then I'm going to go Habakiri effect, add the Ritual. Now we're going to activate Ritual, and we can summon Murakumo from hand by using Night Sword Serpent and Kusanagi from our deck. And as you can see, we're not giving them any draws at all off of the Fuelos here. Kusanagi's going to add back the Ritual, Night Sword Serpent's going to summon. Very easy to set up a lot of bodies under the Fuelos. It's one of the reasons this deck is so good. Now I'm going to activate my Engraver effect, add Tract. Then I'll activate Tract to add and summon Luri, still giving them 0 draws, but that's going to change here in a second. And I'm going to do something a little bit unconventional. I'm going to activate my Ritual here to summon my, I think this is a Futsu no Mitama from my deck, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to summon back my Murakumo. They're going to change Rua Swarm, which is actually fine, because I was going to use Joel and Mockbird a little bit later anyway. My plan was to get the Murakumo summon and then add Luri into Requiem, and then when they drew off that, then I was going to draw. Yes, as the Mitsurugi player, I was going to draw myself, giving them, I think, a total of, what, +2 draws? The initial draw of Fuelos plus another 2, in order to fully set up my board here, which I think would have been worth it. But this is, I mean, it's a lot more annoying to have my Murakumo get hit with the Druid Swarm, but it will result them in only having 5 cards instead of 7. So in that regard, it does at least kind of work out to my benefit. But I will say again, not having Murakumo access is going to be a little bit annoying here. Alright, we're going to keep Link summoning here. Link climbing into the sequence. We still have the Engraver in the graveyard, by the way. We're going to go for Fine Mana effect here, fusing Lucius and another Fuelos that's in their hand. Summoning Golemel. I don't know why they didn't use both Fuelos, actually. I didn't even think about that till just now. They're going to use Golemel to destroy Fiendsmith sequence, but remember, I haven't used Engraver's effect yet. So what I can do here is I can activate Engraver, put back my sequence to summon. Now I'm going to equip the Requiem to the Engraver. I'll be able to use Requiem to send their Golemel. And now I can just link into the sequence again. And I didn't use sequence's effect before, so I can just use it now and still, you know, resolve it. So sequence is going to shuffle back Engraver and Luri. I definitely want to make Caesar here, because Caesar will be able to negate multiple of their cards next turn, whether it's Fine Mana, Ketu, Rahu, Molulu. Having 2 negates against the Dracotail cards is going to be really good. But what I can also do is I can link Saji plus Sequence into Little Knight. And then I thought about it. I was like, I could use Little Knight to banish the face down. But I ultimately decided to banish the Druid Swarm, because I really didn't want to have to deal with them just linking off Druid Swarm and sending my Caesar. They will get to use the Golemel effect. I am going to use one of my Caesar negates on it. It's not ideal. I would have liked to have both for my opponent's turn. But I absolutely would love them to not have Golemel on their field popping my cards. So we're going to set Imperm and then pass back over to them. They'll draw for turn. Flip up their face down Ketu. I'm going to use my Caesar on it. I'm a little worried though, because Caesar negates the activation and they could use another Ketu from hand, or they could still have a Rahu or something. Sure enough, they have a second Ketu. I'm going to chain Maxi to it and hope for the best here. Let's see what they add and then summon. Oh, it's nothing because they conceded. That's right. I thought that was a really early concede for my opponent. I was actually really worried in this scenario. Like, yeah, I just resolved Maxi, but my only other interactions are Little Knight and Imperm. Remember, they banished my Murakumo with Juro Swarm, so I cannot summon that back off the Futsuno Mitama. So I actually think they still had the edge here. Especially because Dracotail really can play giving you minimal draws. I think the thing they were maybe concerned about was the Futsuno Mitama. Not even summoning necessarily, but also just the fact that the defense would be really hard to get over. I don't know. I'm not sure what they were thinking here. But either way, I guess I'll take the win. So I have one last game. Let's go ahead and finish off with that one. Okay, so this is another going second game that I really, really wanted to show you. And I actually, even though it's a Duels Cup and I can't check my opponent's deck, I remember this one. My opponent's going to be on a really cool zombie pile. I think it's zombie with a P.U.N.K engine, if I remember right. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, 1000%, yes. So huge shout outs to my opponent. If you happen to be out there watching, I am a huge fan of your deck. It was very cool, so I had to show this off here. So yeah, they're gonna go for the Foxy Tune, which I thought was a little bit weird. I was like, really? You don't want to go for the, you know, the new one? But then I saw them discard the Doom King Ballard Drock, and I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Let's see what they end up doing here. They are going to go for the Jam Dragon Drive and Deer Note. Xayamine effect as well to Chain Block. Very smart. No hand traps here, but I do have quite a bit of gas, so I'm thinking I'm not only eager to see what they do, but I'm also thinking that I can still play through it pretty decently. They're going to add and then summon Psychic Tracker, going for the Goblin Biker here, the Big Gabonga. That's going to add the Doug Charger, and at this point I was like, alright, sick, Goblin Biker Punk, we love to see it. But I was still curious about that Doom King Ballard Drock. I was like, there's zombies in this deck too? So we're going to use Goblin Biker Grand Entrance, and here's where everything ties together in a brilliant way. My opponent had such good deck building skill here to know that Goblin Zombie was searchable off of the Grand Entrance, and this effect to add zombie monsters triggers whenever it's sent from the field to the graveyard for any reason, including being linked off. So they're going to get to summon it here and then link with the Doug Charger in order to make Cross Sheep. Now Goblin Zombie gets to activate here. That's going to add the Ghost Wyvern. Ghost Wyvern has the ability to add Ghost Fusion, but they're actually going to turn their two Exceeds and Secret monsters into Entis, and that's how they're going to summon the Ghost Wyvern to add Ghost Fusion. Now Ghost Fusion gets to activate using the Chang-Chi in the deck with the Ghost Wyvern to summon the Duke of Demise. Chang-Chi the Spirado, by the way, has an effect that can banish in order to summon, and then it can send from the deck to the graveyard any zombie, which in this case is going to be Mad Mauler. Here's Vampire Fascinator. It's so cool because if you go back on the channel, I've used all these cards at some point, except for Duke of Demise, but I've never used them in this combination before. It was so cool to see my opponent do this because I was like, you can do that? Alright, so we're going to make a level 6 Synchro. That's the Immortal Dragon. Immortal Dragon effect is going to send the Banshee, and that's going to let them set up Zombie World and in turn the Ballard Drock later. They get to make a Bawaku here. I believe because, yes, the Entes is a fairy, right? And this is fairy or fiend? No, it's only fiend. What was a fiend there? What do they, hang on. Just want to make sure I'm... Oh, Duke of Demise is a fiend, not a zombie. Got it. Yep. So they can make the Baron de Fleur. They have the Abawaku. Banshee sets up the zombie world. Oh, and they're even triggering their own Mazira here with the Baron effect. Banish to summon the Foxy Tune. Now they have 2 level 8s, and they can make a rank 8. That's going to be the Titanic Galaxy Hope Harbinger. They also get to add back the Goblin Zombie. It's so good. End phase, Ghost Wyvern adds Glow Up Bloom. And then a Bawaku returns. And then also during my standby phase, they're going to get to go for the Ballard Drock. I'm going to use Imperm on the Hope Harbinger here. Go for Prayers, Tribute Murakumo, but they have Ash Blossom, which was really rough. because they still have the Baron to get up to. So there goes my prayers. Murakumo still gets to activate. I'm going to add Mirror since Murakumo's in the graveyard. And then, yeah, here's Ballardrock, which can negate or banish zombie monsters, which, spoiler alert, all my monsters are going to be zombies. I'm going to try to go for Fiendsmith stuff here. Engraver for Tract F in order to add Lurie. But yeah, again, just huge shout out to my opponent for this combo line. That was insane. That all started with E-Telly, by the way. All of the Punk into Goblin Biker into zombie stuff was all off the E-Telly. Actually, just insane. So yeah, at this point I was like, you can have it. I can't play. You got it. All right, let me show you the list here before we finish off. All right, here is my Fiendsmith Mitsu list. I'm trying to remember if it's the same one I just posted the other day. I think it is. I'm trying to remember if I added these ghost spells, if I already had them in there. The videos got posted kind of back to back. Well, not directly back to back, but recording these was, you know, I think like 5 days in between, so. Sorry, I don't remember that off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, either way, the build is still, I think, really solid here. I think I did actually change it, because wasn't it 40 cards before? And I think I added these ghost spells to kind of counter Dracotail. Plus, I definitely don't mind going above 40, because if you count our number of starters here, including the number of Fiendsmith cards, I think we're at 16, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, excuse me, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, 16 starters. So for 42 cards, that's plenty fine. And I've had people in the comments say that, like, you know, Fiendsmith cards, in order to bridge into Mitsurugi, you need Lina, the Light Charmer, which is this one, plus Magistus Chorozo, which is this one. And yes, those are needed to go directly from Fiendsmith into Mitsurugi, but I still like to count the Fiendsmith cards as starters, because I think even just going into a Fiendsmith package is good enough by itself. A lot of the time, you won't even use your normal summon to do it, so if you have another normal summon, you can still make Caesar plus SP or something like that, if not a little bit better. And honestly, I did used to play Lina and Chorozo, and it just never really came up. And honestly, in my games playing without them, they've never come up for me. I've never had a game where I'm like, I would have won if I had Lina and Chorozo. I have had games where I go first and only open the Fiendsmith stuff, but again, I just make SP plus Caesar, and then I usually just have a bunch of hand traps pass and then win anyway. So I like having the extra flex spots in the extra deck. Granted, stuff like, you know, Dugaris and Exciton don't come up a lot, but I think that the situations in which you only have Fiendsmith cards as your starters, you're in a better spot than a situation where you need an Exciton Knight, or you need a Dugaris, like, get over a Lunalight, you know, Saber Dancer, right? So yeah, I think when it comes to picking you just gotta pick your poison, right? And I prefer to have the niche cards that are better in a bad situation, as opposed to the niche cards that are good in an already fine situation. So that's kind of my thought process there. But yeah, there's the build, there's the games. Hope you enjoyed them. Thank you so very much for watching as always. Let's move on to our outro and thank our YouTube members and patrons. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.